Hello, we are here for the first edition of the EURIDICE podcast series. So I have here as our special guest Professor Biondi from the University Federico in Napoli.
Yes.
You are professor in pharmaceutical technology.
Yes.
You give courses to master and bachelor students. But in your courses you do something very interesting. So you have added improvisational theater to your courses. And can you tell us something about that?
Yes. Quirky as it seems, but basically the idea was that improvisational theater is a form of theater which requires no script, and all the scenes are created in the moment. And this encourages the actors to adapt to an ever-changing story, because people on stage don't know what's going on 1 second after a sort of input which is given by the audience. This prompts people to be somehow welcoming toward the unexpected changes and twists and turns of life, basically. So the idea was to match these abilities with the teaching of transversal skills within technical courses. So the idea was to integrate soft skill development within hard skill development, all together in a sort of mashup. I don't know if that was clear enough.
Yes, very, very clear. How did you come to the idea to use such an very unusual way of such an unusual method in education to a very technical course?
Basically by chance, because I attended a seminar given by Kees Couvenard, who is the one who first applied the Lewis method, learning outcomes of universities and their impact on society. And then while he spoke about Lewis, I found out, well, this is improv, this is improv, this is improv, and this is improv. And so we just met, and together we found out a sort of strategy to basically develop what I already did in a more structured way. Still, it worked even before I knew it worked.
And how do students react to it?
Yes, this is funny, because students at the very first, when I try to talk about what Lewis is about, are more puzzled than happy. And then they are a lot involved during the course, while studying the lessons. We study all together, basically, after a first layer of paint, say, I first explain, give a lesson, and then go back to the lesson with the students, aiming to find out the concept map of the lesson. And then they are frightened and happy and somehow involved and somehow enthusiastic. It depends on the person, on the day, on subject, but overall they're more happy than not. But it's strange to them, I know.
And have you noticed some improvement in their achievements through this new method?
Yes, to some extent, because those who attend steadily the course then found out a sort of better relationship with me in this case, and so they perform better, or at least perform the same way with seemingly a less fear of a lower fear of toward the professor. So I think that is, despite, even if there is no measurable improvement, still I find it's a very good result in the sense that they at least are less anguished about facing the professor.
And you also told us something about mind mapping, that you use that in your course, and that, can you tell us something about that?
Yes, it's a sort of adaptation of a very basic improv theater exercise, which is called one-word story. So in improv theater, people are encouraged to create a story by contributing one word each. This means that nobody knows where the story is going, so you have to be able to work in group. You have to be able to not feel frustrated because your story is clearly going to evaporate. And so the application of this method to the mind mapping was, you students come here and please contribute to the mind mapping of the previous lesson by contributing with one concept each. So they don't know what will be the order of the concepts, so they are forced to look at the concepts which are scattered at first, and then they can find out the connection among the concepts. This helps them to be welcoming, because you say what I thought, I'm fine with that. You say what I wanted to say, but still I'm fine with that. I cannot see any connection, and still I'm fine with that. So this helps them to work better together. And why not have a sort of rehearsing of the lesson, which is useful per se.
So the improvisational theater and the mind mapping has some connection to each other?
They are combined if mind mapping is prompted in a collective way. If the students are encouraged to collaborate all together, both the students at the blackboard and the students at the desk, they sort of create an ensemble which can work together. The more they work together, the more they can develop, first of all, work group soft skill, and also information literacy, because they can find out what's essential, what is secondary, what is a detail, what is the layer of the information, and they find out all together in a sort of serendipitous way, which is likewise, which is very similar to what happens in an improvised scene.
Okay, and what is the ideal group size for such a course?
Well, 30 would be the ideal size, but still, universities, my class is some 70 students. So, but they can contribute because it's a very long course, so they have time to be at the blackboard at least once, each of them. So we can do no miracles, but still we can do our best.
And do you have to make subgroups then when the group is very big, or is it just one big assignment or mind map?
No, the mind mapping is performed by calling 4 students at the blackboard, and if they run out of ideas during the mind mapping, the other students in from the desk can come to the blackboard and fill the gaps, the conceptual gaps, give new ideas, find new connections. Sometimes I am surprised, me myself, even if it's the course I normally give. So it's fascinating to some extent and funny.
Oh, and well, you say that. Has the relationship between you and the students improved by this method?
Definitely, because there is a sort of thick wall between the professor and the classroom. And the idea that this thick wall is useless, basically it's counterproductive. Because if I feel confident that I can go to the blackboard and say something incredibly stupid without being judged for that, it's very powerful to them, because it takes away all the background noise related to the I'm not enough stuff, to the I can do better, I'm not smart enough, I will not appear smart enough, both to my peers and to my professor. So once the relationship is more genuine, the assumption is studying will perform better, or at least cost less from the psychological point of view, which is a lot. I think that psychological aspect of being in universities has been totally overlooked at throughout the history of university. And I think it's something we should take care with more attention to date. My 5 cents.
Yes. And how would you advise, for example, new teachers to adopt your methods? How can they start to do this?
Well, let's talk about it first, so that clearly it's a very peculiar method, so I should give them the first nucleation point. This is the starting point, and then we can build up over the nucleation point. But I think 80% of professors can be part of it because it's really easy. And provided that professor is aware that still the hierarchy is kept, because at least experience creates hierarchy. It's not even sort of dangerous as regarding the possible loss of authority and so on, because it has nothing to do with that. It's just the idea that we are not peers, but I can take your hand and carry you both in the subject and also in other competencies which are, believe me, very useful for you. It just works. So that's what I would say then. I would tell them.
We have seen that in Olomouc because you showed us some of the games that we can play as the teachers together in a group. Was that a bit similar to what you do in your class? Can we learn from that a bit?
Yes, because normally the process I perform is, hey students, this is what we shall do, taking techniques from improvisational theater. This is a very little bit of improvisational theater so that you can be silly with no problem. And then you'll find out what is the relationship between what we do in the very first lessons and what we actually do during mind mapping. So what we did in Olomouc relates to the being silly part at the very beginning of the course. So it's a sort of icebreaker so that we can just meet. Don't worry, this is a safe space, too many S's, sorry. And you can be here, whatever you are, and you will be quiet and confident.
Wow, that is fantastic. We heard that you are able to make academics quack, and we are very interested to learn from you how to do that.
Yes, it is, and it's a very complicated game based on even numbers, because it's a game aimed to teach people to be okay with being silly, because the people are put in circle so that the first person has to say one, the second person has to say duck. How many paws does a duck have? 2. 1 duck, 2 paws, because it's 2 paws, and so one duck says 1 quack. So the first time it is 1 duck, 2 paws, quack, 5 people. The second time it's 6 people, because it will be 2 ducks, 4 paws, quack, quack, because there are 2 persons / ducks. The third time it's 7 people, so 3 ducks, 6 paws, quack, 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 and so on. It's easy as it seems. People go completely crazy when performing that. And if people are wrong, because they just are wrong with the number of paws, the number of ducks, the number of quacks, and they just lose count of it, the game starts all over from the beginning, and those who are wrong are encouraged to run around the circle laughing a lot. And then saying, hey, I'm great, I was wrong. And it's a way to welcome failure, because of course we fail. And wow, that's the best thing that can happen in our life. Well, one of the best things that can happen. At least failure happens. So be at peace with that. And it's a big issue among academics, among students, and any time you have to show you're failing. Once you are trained to happily fail in front of an audience, it's it gives us a real ease of anxiety, especially the stupid anxiety correlated to I'm not learning fast enough. So we are okay with failure. That's another five sense of mind. So if you want to address your fear of failure, just learn how to quack.